In 1983, GVSU was reorganized from its previous incarnation as a cluster college to a standard state college divisional organization. The cluster college, which is sometimes thought of as the Oxford model, where distinctions between units are not subject matter but rather pedagogy. One of the clustered colleges was William James College, which was distinguished in terms of its attempt to integrate liberal and career education and to do the more progressive education approach coming out of James and John Dewey and American pragmatic tradition. So William James College was oriented to individualized study plans and students organizing their curricula around problems, issues, themes, not according to the so-called traditional disciplines. And so there were five subject problem issue areas and a synoptic program that kind of held the whole thing together. When the '83 reorganization occurred, which was pretty radical to move from the cluster college model to the divisional model, it was thought that somehow or other the values of William James College and that approach, which is radically alternative approach to the traditional, should be preserved. So the liberal studies program beginning in '83 was essentially the William James College approach, individualized study plans, the student work organized around problems, issues, themes, and an orientation that was distinctly interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary, as some of us like to say. So the program was set up as an all-university program. It was sort of ambiguously housed in the Arts and Humanities division, but in principle was an all-university program, so that the committee had faculty members from all areas of the university, and the students came from all parts of the university, and the coordinator, which was me at that point, was responsible to the university as a whole, though, again, there was this ambiguous housing in the Arts and Humanities division. And that went along for a while until there was yet another reorganization in 2004 when we moved to the present structure. And at that point, it was thought that liberal studies would be best housed in the College of Integrative Studies, and A, and B, become a department. So it became a department within COIS, now Brooks College. I think it's important to notice that the liberal studies program has served and continues to serve three very important functions that are right at the heart of GVSU. Number one, it provides an alternative to the so-called traditional disciplines. I say so-called because those were not invented by God on the eighth day, but rather by the Germans in the 19th century. So, many people think, especially in the progressive education, progressive side of the culture, that that's not a very good way to organize a liberal education. So it's been very important that Grand Valley provide an option for students to do transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary work, and also to be able to organize their program around an issue, topic, theme that contains elements of a variety of disciplines. Second, liberal studies has been, in effect, GVSU's degree completion option, and has been that without apology, without any sense that that compromises the value or the significance of liberal studies. And it's been part of the joy of the program that we get people who frequently show up simply wanting to complete a degree, but somewhere along the line they sort of get converted and they get much more than they bargained for, and often become much more than they bargained for. Third, liberal studies has served a very important function, I think, in terms of, we could call it a Socratic function of being a kind of gadfly to the city, a kind of constant reminder of, in relation to our core mission and The current strategic plan uses the term grounding, that all of GVSU is grounded in the tradition of liberal education. Well, the liberal studies program has been a central locus of deliberation and action as well as thought. And LIB also has been able to really, as did William James, really work out this integration of liberal and career education. I mean, there's a reason why the U.S. Office of Education identified William James in '77, I think it was, as one of 2 demonstration projects in the U.S. for integrating of liberal and career education. That heritage from James and American pragmatism has kind of continued in the liberal studies program. And so it has the flexibility to do both cultivation of the person, development of maturity, critical thinking, abilities to evaluate and relate and so forth that are understood to be very important in the market as it is so fluid today, but also at the same time to build in elements of career preparation so that they're more likely to actually get entry-level employment. So there's the efficacy of liberal studies, I think, has come into greater visibility, and that's reflected in the numbers of majors, which is pretty huge. The student-centeredness was one of the 3 main emphasis areas of William James College, and that coincided very nicely in the early days with the Seidman and Jellema and other founders saying that what we're going to do here is liberal education in a public context. And it is pretty distinctive and pretty against the grain in terms of the implicit imperatives of the economy and institutions. Liberal studies is all about, and the tradition of American pragmatism, especially as we receive it from James, and he says that long ago. He said, even before the 20th century, that that's a tendency of Western people to get the thinkers will go to one side of the room and construct grand theories about nothing real, and the actors will go to the other side of the room and mindlessly follow whatever procedure is in sway. We need to integrate the 2. So that's been fundamental to William James, and I think fundamental to the vitality of liberal education in the U.S. certainly in the 20th century and into the 21st.